Welcome back to Super Sentai Review, episode number 181. Yeah, it's been a few weeks since I last did one, so here we go. This is discussing what is technically the 32nd Super Sentai, Engine Sentai Go-onger. Yeah, those are familiar with its Power Ranger equivalent. Yeah, this is the one that was made into Power Rangers RPM, the most underrated Power Ranger series of all time, because Disney put it on a channel nobody watched. But I watched it. I loved RPM. It was fantastic. Now, there is immediate differences between RPM and this series from the start. First of which, RPM is set in post-apocalyptic future, while in the case of Go-onger, it's present day. And the whole stuff with the desert, that's from Machine World. That's simple what that's from. Now, there is differences between the Rangers and their counterparts here. Let's start with the Red Ranger Sosuke. Him and his counterparts, aside from the fact that both Red Rangers and both battle pretty much the same Zord, they have different backgrounds prior to this one. In the case of Sosuke, he was a former race car driver who was actually really very reckless driver, who was recruited by the supporting bot, whose name is Bumper. Yes, Bumper. Yeah, basically made him the Red Ranger. His Power Ranger equivalent, Scott, is a former military pilot. Yep. Blue Ranger, not real much difference, except the fact that, the professional Rangers is saying they're four bus drivers that just have become Rangers. Yellow Ranger, they said in this one she's a former merchant. In the case of Power Ranger, she's basically a rich girl. But here comes basically something interesting though about the last two. Black Ranger, he in this series is a former police officer. In the case of RPM, he's basically a drifter. Yeah, he's a drifter. They have a lone wolf, and he basically drives drives a car around, and he does this thing where he waters this one flower in the middle of the desert. Yes, this one flower. As for his counterpart, as for the Green Ranger, not a lot of difference between the two of them, aside from the fact that, more of a go-getter, basically, difference. Basically very close with the Black Ranger. And both very happy when both very happy to go become members of the respective teams. But here's something uniquely between two series. The Black Ranger basically became I think his name was Dylan. He became Black Ranger for a whole episode, and the very next episode they're searching for a Green Ranger, and basically Ziggy is recruited. In RPM in this series, both basically make Go-ongers in the same episode. By the way, in case you're curious though, do both series start with the same monster? Oh, yes. Same amount of damage? Yes. By the way, the real names of these particular Rangers, where you have Sosuke, who is Go-on Red, Blue is Ren, Yellow is Saki, Green is Haunt, and Black as Gupai, who is very serious and basically calls the first three very reckless and amateurs a lot throughout these episodes. And he's not recruited to become a Ranger at the very next episode, which you might be thinking, though, the RPM bring that, did they have that aspect too, where we started with red, yellow, and blue first, and then recruited Black and Green. Yes, they basically brought them, but it was this whole story arc. Here it's done in the first couple episodes. In the RPM, they basically stretches out here. So you have him basically witnessing that they're attacking. Of course, he doesn't like the fact they're amateurs, and how young they are, and the fact that they're basically not doing their jobs properly. They were just being relaxed and be lazy while not dealing with a monster. We do see in the first episode debut of their Megazord. Yes, in the very first episode. Let's see. Now, in the case of the main bad guys of the series, we had the Blues Ministers, which I have seen these three pop before in movies. I've seen these three pop up in the Shurikenger versus Go-onger movie. They appear there. They also appeared in the movie for Go-kaiger. Yes, they actually appeared in... the main movie was Go-kaiger versus Spaceship Gavin. Yep, they appear there too. And that's the appearances I can think of when they're not appearing in this series. Now, in the case of the first two here, the third one, they do change her a lot in RPM. They pretty much give a complete makeover. Where here, she's basically a human cyborg who just basically the way she is. In RPM, she's basically Dylan's long-lost sister who was partially turned into a cyborg. Just basically her arm. And I believe her leg, too. This woman just basically is a pure cyborg. And also, she hates being called old lady, and she's a drunk. They also have this thing where, in order to calm her down, just twist the thing on top of her head to calm her down. I'm like, okay. Now, she's the minister of she's the pollution minister of water. Now, the name of these three people are, they're basically part of the Garnic. That's the name of the group. The three pollution ministers, we have the land pollution minister, Yakusen, who actually does pop up he did pop up in RPM, and he was there for a good period of time until he was transformed into, like, what we see for the final villain of the series. Because I looked up who it was, I'm like, yeah, they pretty much just remade him. They used that particular suit. Now, in case you're curious, though, is this the same exterior they use in RPM? Yes. Is the interior the same? Kind of, yes. For one thing, there's no tube for Venchix here. Nope. No tube for Venchix. You think, really? Yeah, Venchix was an American villain. I believe he was the first American villain that the Power Rangers series have had since, I think the last one was Lothar from Ninja Storm. He was a complete American original villain. His counterpart was completely different. There hasn't been that many original American villains in Power Rangers that I've seen. The first one is obvious, was Lord Zed. He's a complete original villain. I think like the next one they had, Strama kind of is, but she kind of has a counterpart there who's slightly different backstory. But if you think about it, like there hasn't been that many original American villains. You have Lord Zed, Scorponix. There's also Rancic, Master Org, Lothar. I believe the last one prior to Venchix was Emperor Grum from SPD. I think he was the last official one that actually ever was an original American villain, because Grum doesn't technically have a counterpart in Deca Ranger. He doesn't. But that'll be discussed another time. Yeah, so it's just these three and basically various monsters. Now, in the case of the names are Yakusen, who's the land polluter. You have Kanis, who's the air pollution minister. You also have water pollution minister, Kagusia. Now, in the case of these first 8 episodes, I'm discussing the first 8 episodes, Savage, the air pollution one. He sends out the first monster episode 1, episode 6. The water pollution monster, she sends out 3 monsters in these 8 episodes. Surprisingly, Saboteur all sends out 3 as well. Yes. We have Sarah Banky, who also was the first monster popped up in RPM. Speaker Binky, and that's it for air pollution. Water pollution was Pipe, Spray, and Bombi. Saboteur is Scoop, Magnet, and Boring. Yeah. Now, a lot of the time, they're just sit there, just do various stuff. The Digger one basically try to basically destroy a new building. Mostly put these 3 are here to cause pollution. That's mostly put what these 3 are here for. If you're curious, though, was this the plot of RPM? No, mostly put it was trying to destroy Korath. That was the whole plot through with that. That's the whole thing with causing pollution, that's basically for Go-onger, for destroying Corinth. That's all RPM. So basically, the main plot is completely different, which I do praise Power Rangers for not carbon copying the same exact plot thread. You use the same monsters, you use the same villains, fine. Perfectly fine. No much problem there. It's just that basically carbon copying the plot is kind of dumb. And sometimes basically Power Rangers has been accused of literally ripping out plot threads from Super Sentai. That was mostly due to Jonathan Zaka doing that. That was all his doing. RPM, basically the reason why it got changed, a bit more interesting of a series. About half of the series, Judge Chip Lin came back, and he took over as the lead writer, and he's pretty much been the lead writer of the series. Well, he didn't actually come back. I think he was actually one of the writers for Samurai Megaforce, but he became the full head writer again with, I believe it was Downcharge, and he's been in it since then. I don't know if he's still with the series right now, but the guy is really good at writing Power Ranger episodes, because the guy clearly knows his characters. Yep, so pretty much we basically had the first episode just debut the first three and their Megazords. The one Megazord. The next episode, you have Gopai, who steals Boppy and the Zords, and he basically just requests become a Go-onger because it was revealed in this episode looking for a green and black ranger. This also is quite interesting though. This is the first Power Ranger series to feature both these colors, in the same series. I would probably say, I think the last official one to do this, what features both these two colors in the same series, because sometimes they usually swap these two colors out. I'd say the last official time this actually happened was actually with Zoo Ranger. That was the last official time this happened, because every time they always swap the colors. Sometimes it's green, sometimes they have black here. This actually is the first one since that one to actually have both colors here. In case you're curious though, or is it going to be a counterpart to Gold and Silver RPM in this one? Yes, I will get to them. Not for a little bit. They'll be around, don't worry. By episode 3, we actually have it where it's revealed in the episode to be the monster, that the Zords for black and green start arriving, and the basic next episode is basically trying to convince them of their partners. Yep. That's most of the plot. This also was the one where the Rangers first meet the water pollution mist the first time. This is also basically used to get... Now, here's the thing. When the Green Rangers sound like, oh, what a pretty lady. And then later call her an old lady. Yeah, I don't really know why. It's just kind of odd, to say the least. Yes. So, they actually form their engine cast, because that's the main, toy. It looks like a toy. And you also have this little card. You just put it right in and makes a Zord. They do explain in episode 2 the reason for this is because the way the air is in the human world, because it's so drastically different. And also they say they will rust out completely. They basically almost die if they stay in the giant size form. If they're machine world, it's perfectly fine. But in human world, they can't do that. So that's pretty much how it is when it comes to that. And they also have it where in episode 3, they do some investigating, which is something that Genpai also has been teaching them some martial arts. He, of course, gets his own Go-onger uniform. They do explain that the symbols that they have are, in fact, the symbols for their Zords. I'm like, okay, interesting. I don't think in the case of RPM they were able to explain that. No, but at least this series, they're about to explain it. At least also we do have... let's have the Rangers spit on thing. Excuse me. And also have them on display before we actually have the actual Zord show up. Yeah. And plus also we don't have a smoking hot doctor who becomes the future wife, real life wife of of RPM Green. Yes. Seriously. These two become romantically involved. both on and off screen, because they actually were briefly married. I think I read their divorce now, from what I've heard. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe the two actors, they were married, and I think they later divorced. One of only a few times I've seen this, were two people who were on the same series and married each other in real life. This also happened with Lost Galaxy, where Green married Drakina. Yes, seriously. And I'm like, you lucky guy to marry a smoking hot babe like that. Yes. The only time I heard this happen, there was one other time, and that was the actors who played Mystic Force Red and Blue. Blue was a woman in that series, and Yellow was a guy. Yeah, and real life, these two got married, and then they got divorced. And that's the only time I've heard of. Of the three, only Green and Drakina, basically, are the actors that play those two, are still married. The other two couples has got divorced. That's what I've heard, anyways. So they pretty much they bond in episode 4, and they pretty much have. I think it was in episode 5 where they actually had the Green Ranger. Their Zord become like one of those extra pieces, and they kind of swap out, and they kind of do the same thing for the next episode. And then we also debut of another Zord in these episodes, the Go-onger, which is simply a crocodile truck. That's most what it is. And what he's there for is to form another Megazord. Yes. Because, like, in the next episode, brand new Megazord. And we also have it where in episode 7, where the main Megazord, the first one they actually have, gets rusted. And this becomes a plot thread for the next episode, where they had to fix it. How? Simple. Wipe off the rust. The first two, it took them like a long time, but they got it done. They basically sprayed and just basically wiped really hard, and they got the spray off those two. But in the case of the very one, he has sort of a character with him. We had basically run into his old supervisor, and him convincing him that all about miracles, and eventually he does wipe off, and of course beat the monster in the episode. But this is like I've been really enjoying this one. Now, in case you're curious, this is another series where I come across where I have watched some of the episodes before, but I stopped for some reason. Yes, this is another one of these episodes. As a matter of fact, the first I got this one was actually episode 5. That's as far as I got with it before I stopped. And after this, you probably think, okay, is there any more of these ones left where you started and they're finished? 2. Cockaranger and Hurricaneer. That kind of features, don't worry about that. But this definitely is one I really want to get to for some time, because I love RPM. It's one of my favorites Power Ranger series. And I did hear that the actor who played the Red Ranger, I've seen him in other stuff. I've seen him pop up in Jessica Jones. And I also heard he joined the Actors Union. That's the reason we couldn't see him in Clash Rangers the movie, well, in person. I believe he did a voiceover. I don't think he did a physical in-person one, because union. That was the reason for that. Mm-hmm. Yeah, but great start of these episodes. I've been thoroughly enjoying these episodes. Oh, by the way, the grunts, same grunts they have in RPM. Not much difference between two of them. Like, aside from the fact their name is different, it's not really much different anyways. Yep, but yeah, that's pretty much it, particular view. Next step is going to be Spy X Family. Okay, next video. Bye.